Croeso mawr I chi gyd i'r sesiwn nesaf yma, Managing your UCAS Timeline, rheoli'ch cais UCAS. Well, yn hasg I pnawn yma I rheoli'r panel sydd ymlaen I. My task is to manage these wonderful panellists in front of me. So without further ado, can you please introduce yourself? Cyflwynwch eich hunan. I'm going to start at the top right-hand corner as I'm seeing you. Iwan Hopkins, tell us who you are.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ewan Hopkins. I work for Cardiff University and I am a Schools and Colleges Liaison Officer. So part of my role is to talk through the UCAS timeline and visit students up and down the country.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr Iwan, a chroeso. Caredig, ti nesa?
Helo, fe fi yw Caredig Ap Thomas. Dwi'n astudio peiriannau cemegol yn Brifysgol Caergrawnt. Dwi'n y fy ail flwyddyn yma.
Hyfryd, diolch yn fawr yn hon. To our next alumni, Charlotte.
Hiya, I'm Charlotte Shah. I am a fourth year student, a master's student at the University of Cambridge. I come from Ysgol Gavin Edmund in Carmarthenshire, and I am a Seren alumni, so I was a member of Seren Hub when it was just starting out, so I'm really happy to be here talking to all of you today. Looking forward to answering your questions.
Lovely, croeso Charlotte and Caredig. We better find out what school you were at, otherwise they won't be very happy. We've heard of Ysgol Edmund.
O, wel, fe es I Ysgol Gavin Penweddig yn Aberystwyth.
So we've got two Ceredigion students with us, da iawn. But we're not forgetting our fourth panellist, Iona Jones. Pwy wyt ti, cyflwyno dy hun?
Hello pawb, Iona dwi. Hi everyone, I'm Iona. I work at the University of Bath as a Widening Access Outreach Officer.
Gwych, croeso mawr i'r pedwar nhw chi. And I'm going to start with Iona and Iwan. Gyda ti, Iona, I gychwyn. We've got a range of questions here. So the first one, how exactly does UCAS work? And what is it? So to those who really don't know much about UCAS at the moment. Iona.
Yeah, so that's a really good question to start off with. So applications for full-time undergraduate courses for UK universities, they all go through UCAS. UCAS is the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service. Now, this is an online application process, and you are usually supported by your school or college through this process. And once you've completed your application, what usually happens is that your school or college will send it off on your behalf to UCAS. So UCAS then processes all the applications and they will send your applications to the universities that you have applied to. Now, UCAS is also your go-to for finding out which offers you have received from universities. So if a university would like to offer you a place. So you will be looking at the UCAS website, you'll have your own login and your own profile, and you can track your application through there. UCAS is also your go-to to find out whether or not you have been successful in securing your place at the university that you have decided to put as your first choice or your backup choice.
Gwych, very comprehensive response. Has she left out anything, Iwan?
No, that was perfect. The only thing I'd add is aside from the application side of it, students can make the most of the UCAS website to get all the information they need if they want to find out about the application process itself, as Iona described, how many choices they can make, then also find out about universities and open days and other information as well. So the UCAS website is very useful, but Iona has described the application process perfectly.
And Iwan, can you say a little bit about the timeline? Because the title of the session is the timeline. So key dates to remember, maybe. It'd be good to hear that right at the beginning here now.
Yeah, good question. So basically, students can actually start applying in September. So it's early September. So for students who were looking to start in September 2021, they could have applied from as early as the 8th of September. So it's normally that sort of week where students can actually start applying. The first deadline then is for anyone thinking of going to Oxford or Cambridge, or also studying medicine, dentistry, or vet science course, or vet med. The deadline for that is the 15th of October. For all other courses and all other universities, then the official UCAS deadline is the 15th of January. So it's a fair bit after. Most schools and colleges have an earlier internal deadline. So I'd always suggest that students speak to their careers teams and tutors to find out when that is. However, just to finish off, although the application process officially you can apply from early September, students should really get the ball rolling way before that. Make the most of summer and those months towards the end of year 12, really, to get things really started, because it does take a while, especially when trying to find the perfect course and things like that.
Yeah, so we've heard about key dates there, but there are key dates for you students listening in to us today that you need to think of in advance. So Caredig, beth oedd y broses I ti? What was your process with regard to UCAS?
Wel, nath o dechrau yn blwyddyn 11. Blwyddyn 12, sori. Pan o'n i'n ystyried pa pynciau o'n i eisiau astudio. Oedd y proses yna, oedd y darn cymryd y hiraf, achos o'n i'n bach yn sicr, a lot i ystyried. Ond unwaith nes i dewis pwnc, nes i dechrau ymgeisio yn dechrau blwyddyn 13. Peth cyntaf i creu oedd y darganiad personol a'r gweddill i'r cais. A wedyn, rhaid i fi paratoi ar gyfer unrhyw cyfweliadau yn ogystal â gwneud profion, un prawf cyn cyfweliad. Ac wedyn, ar ôl i hynny i gyd digwydd, nes i dechrau cael cynigion, a wedyn ar ôl derbyn cynigion, oedd arholiadau yn y diwedd mynd i brifysgol.
So my broses here, Caredig's just told us about, yes, as you once said, you have to think of your pre-preparation for those UCAS key dates. And, Caredig was starting to think about what subject he was going to do, just like you are now, year 12. You think of that early enough, because you might not know what subject you want to do, and there's a process then of key dates of preparation for interviews, preparation for tests, if the university needs that. Charlotte, what was it like for you? What was your process?
So I think, Caredig's got it completely right. It starts with the subjects that you choose, because at the end of the day, universities, different courses will have different grade requirements, but they'll also have different subject requirements. So it's important to think at the end of year 11, okay, what subjects do I enjoy, firstly, and what am I good at? But the two go hand in hand normally. And then that will lead you on to looking at university courses, which, as Yuan said, you can find on the UCAS website. So for me, I was going to do law, but I went on a shadowing scheme at the University of Cambridge in year 12. And it was lovely. It was my first time I'd ever been in the city, and I fell in love, but I realised that I hated law. But some people love law, and some people love it, which is so fine. But I then realised, I need to find a different subject. So in year 12, I was really oh my God, it's nearly the end of year 12. What am I going to do? I don't know what I want to do. So, but I got the prospectus, which are books, but now we have websites too. And I flipped through, and I was I found education, and it looked perfect for me. And I spent the summer starting to do my personal statement, because I knew I had to do it early. And I just as Yuan said, it's best to get it out of the way as soon as possible, so you can focus on your grades. Because that's just as important, getting the right grades. So yeah, don't worry if you don't know what you want to do yet. But for example, I didn't know what course I wanted to do until the end of year 12, but there's so much information out there, and shadowing schemes, summer schools, all of these you can do in year 12. Start having a look, because they'll be really useful in teaching you not only what you like, but also what you don't like. And it'll be great for you to know in year 13.
I'm sure you'll have reassured a lot of people there, Charlotte, because it's about finding out what you don't want to do. And it's okay to doubt that, not know what you want to do. Caredig, what made you decide then? What advice would you give on that? Because you said, trying to work out what subject you can do. What made that decision for you?
So I made my decision based off of what sort of job I wanted to do. So I had made a lot of research in sort of what sort of careers I could go into, and I was quite certain that chemical engineering would be a job for me, and so I chose a degree that would suit that, which is, well, a chemical engineering degree. But you might find that you don't know what you want to do as a job, and so really just look for subjects. You might just go for what you find interesting or what looks interesting. So it might be something you studied at school, or it might be something that you never even heard of, like say linguistics or philosophy. There are plenty of interesting options out there.
Great, diolch yn fawr ti. Iwan and Diona, do you have a role? Do students come to you when they think we don't know what to do? Iwan, you're nodding there.
Yeah, so basically, I'm sure Jona's probably the same. When we go to physical events and say UCAS fairs, where loads of students come to speak to loads of universities, quite often we do speak to students who say, look, I don't really know what I want to do. What do you recommend we do? And it's very beneficial to have both Charlotte and Caredig here to hear from current students' points of views. I remember when I was doing it many years ago, it took me a long time, and I had ruled out lots of subjects, thinking I've done these in school, maybe I should try something new. But all along the way, English language was my favourite subject at school, which when I ended up doing more research into, I thought, well, it makes perfect sense. But students will go through periods where they think I have no idea. But there's so many resources out there. There's so many university websites at the moment. Given restrictions, there's probably more information online than there's ever been before. So there's plenty of ways they can find out more, but also just ask the questions. For example, on our website, I know lots of other websites, some universities have students on there who they can have a chat to, so they can ask as many questions as they can. But they shouldn't be panicked, shouldn't be stressed, shouldn't be disheartened if it takes a while, because every single student will find something. It may just take a little more research and a bit more time.
Yeah, so plan well in advance. That's coming through strongly today. Iona, but ti eisiau ychwanegu hynna? Do you want to add?
Na, dwi'm yn meddwl. I think what Ewan said, is pretty much my thoughts on that. I think one of the most important things is to not panic. You might find that some of your friends, they know exactly what they want to do and they have known for a while, but others, they might have no idea, and that decision might not be made until they sit down to actually start writing their application, or they might change their mind during their application. So I think it's just important, focus on you, focus on thinking about what's important to you, and do your research. Research is so important to help you make those informed decisions, and everyone eventually finds a course that's right for them. So yeah.
Na, ti'n hollol iawn. I remember being in a position similar to you, Charlotte, wondering, am I going to study Welsh or law? I went off law as well, but there are some great law schools out there. Please don't get me. Better not carry on that. Cwestiwn i dechrau gyda ti hwnna this time. I want the questions from the students. What do universities most look for on applications? Is there one quick fix? Iona.
So yn gyffredinol, so generally speaking, I'd say maybe the two key things, there's other things as well, but the two key things that universities will be looking for is answers to these following questions. So first of all, why you want to study the course. Pam ydych chi eisiau astudio'r cwrs? Da chi wedi penderfynu astudio y cwrs yma am 3, 4, 5 blynedd neu fwy? Pam eich bod chi wedi wneud dewis yma? So you've decided to study this particular course for 3, 4, 5 plus years. Why have you chosen this particular course or subject? So what motivates you about the subject? We want to see your enthusiasm and passion for that subject come through in your application. The second thing I want to mention is we'll be looking to see why or how you are suitable for that particular course. Felly pam y byddwch yn addas ar gyfer y cwrs. So we'll be looking to see what skills, experiences, attributes that you have that are relevant to the subject that you are applying for. So in general, I'd say those key things, but there's other things as well that we'll be looking out for. So for example, it's really important that your personal statement is personal. So it's really important that it's about you. It's important that it's focused so that you don't go off on a tangent. So keep it focused on the subject that you're applying to. It's also important that you have someone proofread your application as well. When you've been looking at something for possibly weeks or even a couple of months, it's quite easy to miss, spelling or grammar mistakes. So it's really helpful to have a fresh pair of eyes on it too. So yeah, I don't know if Iwan has anything to add.
Formative,
Iwan,
I
we've
think.
lost your sound there. Oh, sorry. Carry on now. We can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I thought that covered everything, especially the personal statement there. It's exactly the sort of thing that we always suggest students think about, and a lot of it comes like we were all saying, the earlier they start this process of what they want to do, the easier the personal statement gets, because if they've chosen a subject they have a genuine passion for, it will be easier to write about, and then as admissions tutors they will pick up on that much more naturally. And that's pretty much the main thing they need to see, is they need students on the course who are there because they want to learn about it, they're engaged in it, and they're passionate about that. And anyone listening, if you do start this process earlier and you do choose a course early enough, then you'll know you've made the right choice, and then that whole process follows quite naturally then.
Gwych, Iwan. Thank you for that. Caredig, what was your experience of that personal statement? Everybody listening will want to hear.
So I started writing my personal statement beginning year 13. It did take me quite a while to actually get it, because I am quite a slow writer, and it was generally part of it was coming up with things that feel relevant to mention. But I found the easiest way, there are a lot of tools online to help you write a personal statement. Like the one I used was on the student room, and the sort of the attitude that I found made it easiest to write was try and show who you're writing it to that you are interested and excited in doing the subject.
Yeah, Fiona, o ti'n cyffwrdd â hynna, brwdfrydedd ag angerdd am bwnc, that passion and enthusiasm for the subject of your choice, because we've heard you'll have spent a few weeks, months maybe thinking, what is that subject of choice? Well, convey it then, and having researched it, then you're in a better position to really talk about it well. Charlotte, beth amdano ti? What about you? How was that personal statement process for you?
I think obviously I'd only picked what course I wanted to do just before I started. So I did some reading around like the subject, and I think that's, especially if you're applying to an essay-based like course, like humanities or whatever, it's always good to engage with some like reading or maybe like a documentary or something, just to learn a little bit more. And as Iona said, in hindsight, I know that the two things that you should always be looking for in your personal statement, once you finish, you should look. You should answer these two questions. It's can the university teach me, and do I love the sound of this course? And I think I did both. I got to uni, so good. But I think also I just wanted to add, don't be worried if you're applying for courses that have got different like titles and focuses, because I applied for education at Cambridge, but everywhere else I applied for education with English, drama and the arts as the official title. But everywhere else I applied for English and drama. So if you're applying to a course that because you can apply to a couple of different unis, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, but try and find the middle ground between all of those. and try and find the commonality between all of them and just put that in your personal statement. So I talked a lot about English, and I think I talked about like some podcasts that I enjoyed listening to and how like books involved and like affected people's ability to express emotion or something like that. A personal statement is not a CV. It's like a little essay about why you want to do this wonderful thing for the next few years. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a great response, because some people might be thinking now, well, but I don't want to do that at that university. How do you combine? Yes, allow yourself time to think through the links then in those subjects, so that that personal statement is relevant for whatever university you're applying for. And now you've touched on the number of universities. I'm going to go to you, Anne. How many universities can you apply for?
Yeah, good question. So students are able to apply for 5 different courses maximum. Now, that could be in 5 different unis. It could be spread across 2 or 3 different unis. There's no kind of right or wrong way to do that. Students don't technically have to apply for 5. They can apply for 1 if they want, but I'd always recommend applying for the 5, because the more universities you apply to, likelihood is the more offers you're going to get back. Also, when I said you can apply for 5 courses across 2 or 3 unis, just be aware that in some universities, the admissions process is very centrally done. So if you're rejected by 1 course of that university, the likelihood is you could be rejected for the other course of that university. So I personally applied for 5 different courses, all English language related, similar to what Charlotte was saying, which was a good point, in 5 different universities, which of course involves more research. You've got to make sure that you do like the look of those 5 courses. But like we've said about 10 times already, the earlier you start and the more you plan, that gets a bit easier. But yeah, I'd always recommend applying for all 5, because the more offers you're going to have back then typically.
Gwych, diolch Iwan. Iona, rhywbeth ti eisiau ychwanegu hwnna?
Na, dwi'm yn meddwl. No, I don't think so.
Okay,
Actually,
I think, sorry, carry
no,
ymlaen.
I was just going to say, there are some exceptions to the universities that you can apply to. So I believe for medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, and veterinary medicine, you can only apply to 4 courses in those subject areas on your UCAS application. So your 5th choice will have to be something different. So for example, if you apply for medicine courses, then your 5th choice might be something like biology or biomedicine or something along those lines. The other thing to bear in mind is that usually you can only apply to 1 course in either Oxford or Cambridge, but the best place to look for information on Oxbridge applications is directly on the websites of those universities. But yeah.
Gwych, diolch I ti. Ac wrth gwrs, mae yna session. There is a session on Oxbridge admissions as part of the Seren conference, this virtual conference this year. So keep a lookout for that, even if you haven't heard or seen it yet. There is an interview panel discussing Oxbridge admissions, which is great. I've got a question here, which I think is a great question. Should I talk about skills or hobbies I have that don't have a relation to the subject I'm planning to take? For example, we heard about the sciences just there, talking about playing the piano or achieving well on your piano exams when applying for a science. Oh my God, I'm going to start with Charlotte this time. What do you think about that question?
Yeah, so I normally every year I do a lot of like tutoring, and I tutor a lot of Welsh students. And the one thing I always tell them on their first draft is I challenge them to never use the word skill. Because I mean, a lot of people disagree with this, and so like never take my word as law. But I think the more you focus on this idea of skills and hobbies, the more it can make your personal statement feel like a list. Obviously, if they have a relation to the subject, or you feel like it fills you out more as a person, or as a candidate to apply, then sure, put it in. There's nothing wrong with it. So like I believe I put down about my music when I did it, but it was very small and at the end. Remember, the main reason that you're writing this personal statement is because you want to show the universities that you want to study the course and that they can teach you. You could be like you could be an Olympian in like hockey, but if you don't talk in your personal statement about why you want to study medicine, then they might not want you in to study medicine. Yeah, so it's a bit of just playing it by ear, depending on you. Not very helpful, but.
Caredig, what about your hobbies? And did you talk about them in your personal statement?
I did a bit. So I always thought it was a good idea to try and show that you can have time management skills and also have interests outside of the subject, so you are actually a bit more of a complete human being and not just dedicated to your one subject. But so I think I mentioned about running the school's debating society online, which is like totally unrelated to the subject of chemical engineering, but it still showed that I had skills beyond the very narrow range of skills that would be you would get from doing science subjects. But even so, you should still probably dedicate the majority of your personal statement to why you want to study the subject and what you've already done that's related to the subject.
Yeah, it's finding the relevance, isn't it, Caredig? Iwan, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to follow on from what Caredig said, really, it's the main bulk of a statement should really be about the course and what topics a student has studied maybe at school that's related to that course, any reading or research they've done, any experience they've got, and why they want to do it. But it is always okay, to, like both Charlotte and Caredig have said, to maybe have a small paragraph near the end relating to these sort of things. It, like Caredig says, it is really important for universities to see that you are able to balance your academic life with extracurricular activities. Now, playing the piano, while it may seem unrelated to science, if someone's achieving a high grade in that, they're showing commitment and dedication to it, and it shows that someone, like I mentioned, can still achieve good grades at school while achieving good things with music or other activities outside of school. So it is good. University is about balancing your academic and social life. So someone who can show they're doing that now is going to show themselves as a very strong student. So I agree with both so far that the main bulk should be about the course, but it's okay to mention a few things in there as well.
Iona, beth fydde ti'n dweud am hynna?
Yeah, I think everyone's made some really good points so far on that. I think there's a balance to be struck with the examples that you use in your personal statement as evidence for all this relevant skills and experiences that you have. So something that I tell students is that a good place to start when you're first thinking about your personal statement is to find out exactly what universities are looking for. So what skills are they looking for in an applicant? Is there any work experience that they might look for? Is there any, are there any personal qualities that they might look for? So once you know what it is they are looking for, you can then start to flesh this out with evidence. So that evidence, if it's directly related to the course, then that's brilliant. However, as we've already mentioned, if you have an extracurricular activity like playing a musical instrument, or you are the captain of a sports team or anything along those lines, there'll be loads of really relevant skills that you can pull out from those examples as well. So for example, like playing a musical instrument, like we said, it shows your commitment. It shows that you are, that you have a passion outside your studies, and those are also things that universities will want to hear about. So yeah, I would start with thinking about what exactly they are looking for, and then have a think about the most relevant examples that you can use.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr iawn. A question more probably for Iwan and Iona. Conditional, unconditional offers, what do they mean? Great question there from a student. I'm going to start with you to get a tea tro cynta. Iona?
So an unconditional offer, so this can work in two ways. So someone, let's say for example, someone who has finished sixth form, they have completed their A-levels, they decide to take a year out and then apply to university with their results. An offer that they receive can be unconditional because they already have their results, so their place is not going to be dependent on whether or not they achieve them on results day, for example. So that's one way to look at an unconditional offer. The other way to look at an unconditional offer is if you are still studying your for your A-levels, or you're still studying your sixth form studies right now, you haven't received your results yet. But if a university makes you an unconditional offer, this means that you have a place on that course regardless of the grades that you achieve when you after you sit your exams or your assessments. Now, something I want to say in regards to unconditional offers, if you are made an unconditional offer, please don't use this as a reason to take your foot off the gas and to take your sixth form studies lightly. Your A-levels or your sixth form qualifications, they are still really important, not just for entry to university. So continuing to try your best, even if you have an unconditional offer, is something I'd strongly advise. It can help to prepare you for studying at university, and also employers sometimes look at your A-levels as well when you're going for graduate jobs, so jobs after you finish university. So yeah, I think consider unconditional offers really carefully, and don't use it as a reason to not try your best. A conditional offer, on the other hand, is an offer that's made with conditions. So for example, a university might say, okay, if you achieve AAA in your A-levels, then we will give you the place on the course. So it's reliance on you achieving or meeting certain requirements.
And I think it's going to be the last question from me. Our time is running out. Do one. When are those offers given? I know it's a very general question.
No, it's a good question. The soft and annoying answer is that it depends on the course and the university. Some universities and courses will get back to students within days of having the application. Others will wait until after the deadline. Typically, the earlier you apply, in most cases, the earlier you could expect to hear back, especially if you're applying for courses that have interviews. For example, healthcare and medicine sort of courses. Those interviews in a usual year are normally around a Christmas-ish time. So you'd hear back before then, of course, but it does depend on when you apply. I'd always, again, recommend applying before the deadline, as long as you've planned properly and you've given yourself enough time, because then you normally can hear back a little bit earlier. But then other courses and other universities will make you wait until March or April. So it really depends on a whole host of different things.
Gwych, Iwan. And before we leave, Caredig, when were you given your option, or your offer, I should say?
So for of the universities I applied to, 3 of them gave me an offer within about a week.
Really?
And then and then I got an offer from Imperial just before Christmas, I believe. And then my Cambridge offer didn't come until January, I don't think. But yes,
Okay.
it is probably the latest I received.
Okay. And Charlotte, what about you? When did you get the result of your offers?
Mine were a bit more spread out. So I only applied to 4. I got one offer late November, and then I got my Cambridge offer after an interview early January. I got my other ones between, because they also had interviews. I'd say the last one I received in about early February. So like after the deadline, but as Yuan said, it could be like massively spread out. Yeah, by February, I knew what I was doing.
Well, I'm glad I approached you two to end this question and answer session today, because everybody's different. So don't panic when you think, oh, so-and-so's had an offer and I haven't.
Mm.
And as a mother of 2 children who've been through it, I know how tense it can be. But it all ends well. And as long as you go to the place that suits you, you'll be fine wherever you're admitted to. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi panelwyr. I've really enjoyed, and thank you for your questions, students, and we really wish you well on managing your own UCAS timeline. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch yn fawr iawn to our University Panel of Experts, Iona Giwan, and our Amserlen alumni, Charlotte Caredig, who've given you very insightful knowledge on how to manage that UCAS timetable. Ac in cefnogwyr allweddol, y formative Seren supporters, Sandy and Matt, and our alumni, Susanna and Jack, for that informative session on the Oxbridge admission process. Well, I hope these last couple of days have made the transition into higher education a little less daunting for you all. Llai pryderus am y pontio na gobeithio. Ymlaen at sesiynau olaf y gynhadledd. Now, these next sessions are the final sessions of this year's Seren Academy Conference, but by no means the least important. Dewiswch, you can now choose between adjusting to university life Q&A, a fydd yn cynnwys rai o alumni Seren, sef Charlotte Ellis, University of Birmingham, Morgan Davies Walker, University of Cambridge, Daniel Bray o Brifysgol Aberystwyth, Tom Rhys-James, University of Exeter, ac Ella Catherine Jones, Cardiff Metropolitan University. Cyngor parod ganddyn nhw. They'll talk about their transition to university from school and college and what top tips they would give you to help you settle into university. Nay, or we also have on offer the applying for international courses in summer schools. Session Question ag Ateb Fyw, the live Q&A session where our superhero, Dr. Matt Williams, will be there with Seren alumni to answer questions on the summer schools. Yn ymuno â nhw, joining them, will be Dr. Matthew Jones from Northeastern University in Boston, Liam Rachman from Equal Recruitment, who studied not far from there in New Haven, and Rowena Boddington from the UK-US Fulbright Commission. Mae gan Liam gyfoeth o brofiad yn rhoi cefnogaeth I bobl fel chi. Liam has a wealth of experience in supporting students to get to the US, both as a summer school attendee and also preparing students who are following an international study route. And Rowena helps thousands of people applying to US universities. A bu'n astudio yn o'i hunan. She had the opportunity to study in California herself. Cewch gyngor gwerthfawr wrthyn nhw. They'll be able to give you their insights into applying for the Seren summer schools and international courses. And Liam and Matthew especially will be able to give advice on how studying in the US compares to studying in the UK. Difyr. Digwyddiad byw fydd hwn. As this event is live, any questions you have can be provided in the chat function of the Teams live event. Manteisiwch ar y cyfle I holi felly. We'll aim to answer all your questions, but will publish all question and answers in the coming days. Felly, ewch i'r lobby a dewiswch. Head over to the lobby now to select your choice of Q&A, which will begin at 7:45. Ac yna, nôl fan hyn. And then come back here in the main room at 8:25. Am y wybodaeth bwysig yna for that all-important registration information for the Seren Summer Schools.